our glutathione levels decline as we get older, and they're depleted by toxins in the environment or alcohol or smoking and intense exercise. So if you're training hard and you're working long hours, and if you're traveling, if you're under stress, your demand for glutathione goes way up. And unfortunately, most of us simply just don't get enough. We don't have enough in our reserves to meet up with that demand. So now we're vulnerable to fatigue and slow recovery, weaker immune defenses, and faster cellular aging. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chris Gethin podcast. Today, we're going to dive into a subject that I find fascinating, that sets right at the intersection of Healthspan recovery, immunity, performance, energy, and that is glutathione. I'm sure many of you have heard of glutathione, the body's master antioxidant. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I've been taking glutathione for many, many years now. God, let me think back. Probably, 2025? Probably about 7 or 8 years, I'd say. I've been taking this because it's not just about how long we can live. It's about how long we can live well, adventurous, in good health. We want to be strong. We want to be energetic. We want to be healthy. And that's where glutathione comes into play. So let's start here. Glutathione, as I said, is often referred to as the master antioxidant. And it's not just marketing hype. It's a small molecule. It's a tripeptide made of 3 amino acids. You've got glutamate, cysteine, and glycine. And it exists in every cell in your body. And its role is quite huge. It neutralizes harmful free radicals. It helps detoxify chemicals as well. It supports the immune system. It protects the mitochondria, those tiny powerhouse plants inside your cells that are responsible for generating energy. And I'm sure, if you're listening to this now in the press very, very recently, we've heard about Tylenol, the negative effects of Tylenol. And one thing that Tylenol does, it actually depletes your body of glutathione. So glutathione has a very, very strong role. I take it every single day and have done for many, many years. And I actually double my dose when I'm traveling, when I feel like I haven't been sleeping much, if I'm under stress, taking flights, going into different time zones, because I know I am under a lot of stress and my body is probably depleting itself. And as we get a little bit older, our mitochondria obviously doesn't function as it once did. And we need to ensure that we have plenty of this master antioxidant in our system. And when we talk about, slowing down aging and preventing the breakdown of tissues and recovery and hard training, glutathione is right in the middle of those conversations. But as I mentioned, our glutathione levels decline as we get older, and they're depleted by toxins in the environment or alcohol or smoking and intense exercise. So if you're training hard and you're working long hours, and if you're traveling, if you're under stress, your demand for glutathione goes way up. And unfortunately, most of us simply just don't get enough. We don't have enough in our reserves to meet up with that demand. So now we're vulnerable to fatigue and slow recovery, weaker immune defenses, and faster cellular aging. And, you've heard me talk about biological age. Our chronological age really doesn't matter. It's our biological that does. And we want to do whatever we can to prevent that aging, not just from a health standpoint, but from recovery, for aesthetics, for energy, in order to perform in the gym, to go out on that run, to have the enthusiasm to exercise. Now, not all glutathione supplements are created equal, and you'll see loads of them on the market. And a lot of these do not survive well in the gut. Even though it is a tripeptide, and tripeptides are usually quite stable, this one isn't that stable. But Cetria, which is a brand of glutathione, is clinically studied, and it's a patented form that's manufactured through fermentation. It's pure, it's stable, and most importantly, it's been shown in human clinical trials to actually raise glutathione levels in the body. And we're not talking just theory here. We're talking about documented increases in glutathione levels in the blood, in the lymphocytes, in the buccal cells, in your mouth. And that's crucial because it means oral supplementation can translate into real measurable changes in your body. And we've heard about, a lot of these clinicians or influencers saying, hey, orals don't work. And they're just trying to push their injectable, their vials, their IVs. And of course, they do work. If you're going for an injectable, yeah, that's going to be very, very potent. It's going to be a stronger version. However, the oral is very, very stable. And, let's talk about gut stability. For years, people thought that oral glutathione was useless and it would get broken down. But this recent research shows that isn't the picture. It does survive digestion. Maybe not all of it, but a lot of it does. And I'm going to be referring to the Ritchie studies here quite a bit now, which was in 2014. And it showed that 6 months of oral citria supplementation increased glutathione levels throughout the body up to 260% in certain tissues. And that's a massive change. And it's not only stable enough to survive the gut, it's also effective at replenishing what we lose through aging, through training, through stress, through everyday life. Now, let's shift into gears of the real meat of today's episode, the benefits. What does the science show us about supplementing with citria glutathione? And how can those benefits translate into extending your health span, boosting your recovery, giving you more energy? Well, there's another landmark study by Dr. Ritchie, which was in, I think it was the European Journal of Nutrition. They took 54 adults, healthy adults, men and women, and the ages were ranging from 20s to early 70s, and split them into 3 groups. There was the placebo, the one group that took, I think it was like 250 milligrams of glutathione, and the third, it took a massive 1,000 milligrams daily. Now, here's where it gets interesting. After 6 months, the high dose group, that's the 1,000 milligrams per day, showed a 30 to 35% increase in the red blood cells, in the plasma, and in the lymphocytes. And in the buccal cells, that's a lining inside your mouth, it was 260% increase as well. So that's more than double everywhere. And even the lower dose group showed a significant increase. It wasn't as dramatic, but when they stopped the supplementation, their glutathione levels gradually returned back to baseline, which shows that consistent supplementation is key if you want to maintain those benefits. So that's a fascinating outcome that we get from that, and it increases your immune system, as we know, that patrols your body looking for infected or cancerous cells to destroy. And at the 3-month mark, the high dose glutathione group had nearly double the activity of natural killer cells compared to the placebo. Again, that is huge, because glutathione isn't just about protecting against oxidative stress. It's actively priming your immune defenses. And if you're someone who trains hard, who travels, who gets exposed to stresses or pathogens that can compromise your immune system, then that kind of support can be a game changer for you, Let's talk about free radical production. So when free radical production outweighs our antioxidant defense systems, we get oxidative stress. That damages lipids, proteins, DNA, and accelerates aging. And in this Ritchie study, the markers of oxidative stress went down significantly in the glutathione groups. The ratio of oxidized to reduced glutathione improved, which means the body had a much healthier redox balance. So a more youthful, resilient, and cellular environment in those people. And that translates into less cellular wear and tear over time. So you think about your car, you're driving, you're wearing it out, you're not getting it serviced. Of course, the chances of that slowing down and stopping altogether, dying, is going to be much, much higher. Okay. So another benefit that often gets overlooked is energy production. So I'm always talking about the mitochondria, that tiny power plants in your cells that generate ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is your energy currency. But mitochondria also produces free radicals as a byproduct. So glutathione sits inside the mitochondria. It protects them from oxidative stress and damage. But without enough glutathione, your mitochondria gets damaged and your energy output goes down. Fatigue sets in. So what happens with my clients when they start getting fatigued? They don't have the enthusiasm to work out or do their cardio. They make rash decisions or poor decisions when it comes to their food, because if you're fatigued, if you're tired, your chances are going, I want comfort, and that comfort usually comes in food. So I'm always encouraging my clients to focus on their energy production. Of course, sleep, hydration, making sure you're in a parasympathetic state, but making sure that your glutathione levels are higher, your NAD levels are higher, anything that is going to help with the mitochondria. Maybe it's methylene blue, it could be carbon C60. But let's tie this into recovery, because when you hammer your body with weight training or endurance training, glutathione helps buffer the oxidative load. And that doesn't mean it prevents adaptation. But remember, when we need some free radicals to trigger growth, but it helps make sure that the stress doesn't cross into the zone of damage. So that means less soreness, less lingering fatigue, faster turnaround between training sessions. And this isn't just anecdotal. Human trials show improved redox balance and stronger immune function and lower markers of oxidative stress when supporting with Cetria glutathione in this trademark form. So let's go into the gym a little bit now, because I know a lot of my listeners here are, hey, I work out, I'm into athletic performance. And if you're like me, you don't just want to know what happens in a blood test. You want to know how this translates into better energy, endurance, recovery, and better results. So every time that you work out in the gym, whether it's lifting weights or maybe you're running intervals, you're cycling, swimming, doing Ironman training, whatever, you're producing oxidative stress. You're generating free radicals. So a certain amount is actually beneficial. It's the adaptive process. So those free radicals act as signals to tell your body, come back and build me stronger, increase mitochondrial density, and enhance my endurance, for instance. But here's the problem. When the oxidative stress exceeds your body's antioxidant capacity, that's when you get into trouble. The muscle fibers get damaged unnecessarily. That's when recovery slows down. That's when your immune system weakens. You become more susceptible to overtraining syndrome. And that's where glutathione, again, plays this massive role, like a fire extinguisher in the cell, because it neutralizes these excess of free radicals, and it protects the mitochondria and keeps the redox balance in check. So instead of exercise tipping into a state of damage, the glutathione helps you in that sweet spot where you still get stimulus, you still adapt, but you do not accumulate unnecessary wear and tear. So think of it as buffering your system so you can train hard, recover faster, come back stronger the next day. So, a lot of us think, okay, I'm not able to recover like this person that's 15, 20 years younger than me because they're younger than me. It's not because of the chronological age. It's the biological age of their mitochondria and the free radical damage that person's able to overcome with this redox balance. We don't as we get a little bit older, but we can do something about it. So we can, okay? And it isn't just about functioning. You want to look young as well. And this is where it can really, really help. Think of what our body's largest organ is, and glutathione sits in every single cell. It's in our skin as well. But another interesting angle here is nitric oxide. We know about nitric oxide like citrulline or arginine for vasodilation, widening of the blood vessels so you get more oxygen and nutrients delivered to that muscle during training. And that's why ingredients like beetroot as well is popular, or fermented citrulline. But glutathione protects nitric oxide. It prevents it from being broken down too quickly. So when you combine glutathione with like fermented citrulline, it actually enhances and extends that vasodilation effect, that pump, better blood flow, better endurance during training. Okay, so you want that pump, you take your glutathione with your pre-workout. And if you have, for instance, longevity EAAs from Unmatched, then of course you're going to have some glutathione there. But I always take my glutathione. I have the Biostack Labs CellShield in the morning. And then usually I'm having my pre-workout around that time and I'm going to train. So that's how I do it. I stack it anyway. And if your glutathione levels are high, you recover faster, you clear the oxidative waste more efficiently, you protect the muscle cells from further damage. Because if those levels are low, your process of recovery slows down. You stay sore longer. You feel drained. You might even compromise your next workout because you haven't bounced back fully. And I always say your recovery dictates your performance. Okay. So anyway, so how do I use it? So one approach is to stack glutathione with other performance-orientated supplements like BH2K, Dissident, Outlier, for instance. But I find it works really, really well when you have these because you've got citrulline and you've got nitric oxide pathways in. It really elevates that game. So let me give you a couple of scenarios here on how it can help. Like you've just done a brutal leg day. You've done squats, lunges, maybe finished with some sled pushes, the kind of workout that leaves you trembling. Now imagine two different people, both trained the same way, both ate the same post-workout meal, but one is depleted of glutathione levels and the other one has strong glutathione reserves thanks to consistent supplementation. The first person feels wrecked for several days. They're sore, their energy is flat, maybe they even catch a cold because their immune system is dipped. But the second person still feels a bit sore because the training stress is real, but they bounce back faster. Their immune system holds strong. Their mitochondria is cranking out energy. They're ready for their next session sooner, and they string together more productive workouts over the long term. That is the power of glutathione in action. And it's not always the workouts that beat us down. Sometimes it's life. It's life. It's the flights. It's the business trips. It's the late nights, working on a project, taking care of the kids, crossing time zones, waking up and feeling like your brain is still in yesterday. And for me personally, with the amount of traveling I've done over the years and lack of sleep and overtraining, crossing continents and time zones on little sleep, I can tell you firsthand that glutathione really is a lifesaver, So, and on that note, let's talk about sleep deprivation. Because when you don't sleep enough, your body doesn't get the chance to perform its nightly repair work. That's where your antioxidant systems, especially glutathione, is working overtime to clean up that oxidative damage, to reset your mitochondria, to recharge your immune system. But cut that short, and these stress levels rise, your inflammation rises, your glucose metabolism gets impaired, your mood, your focus, your performance, they all start to decline. But studies in both animals and humans have shown that glutathione levels actually drop when sleep is restricted. Your reserves get depleted. So if you're running on 5-6 hours sleep a night, you're operating in a depleted state. And that's when supplementation really, really helps. So if I'm lacking in sleep, I will always, like I said, I will double my CellShield from Biostack. I'll have, first thing in the morning, I'll have my dose and I'll have creatine as well, because creatine really, really helps when you are lacking in sleep. I throw my hydrogen in there. I have my Leuco Blue, boom, and I'm good. Get rid of that brain fog straight away. Because usually when I'm traveling into a different time zone, I've got to do like a seminar the next morning. But anyway, so let's talk. We're getting towards the end here, but this is how I use it. When I know I've got, like, for instance, a long haul flight coming up, I start loading my glutathione or my CellShield a few days beforehand, and I keep it consistent during the trip, day and night, sometimes even 3 times if I really feel like I'm coming down with something. I do pair it with hydrogen. I get as much natural light exposure as I can in the morning, keep my training lighter until I've adapted. And every time I do this, my recovery is faster. My immune system holds stronger. My jet lag is pretty much non-existent. But I do other things. I'm grounding myself. I'm wearing my blue light blocking glasses. So glutathione isn't the only reason, but it's part of my bigger strategy. Okay. But anyway, so the clinical trial that I referred to earlier has anywhere between like 200 and 1,000 milligrams per day. giving you a 30% increase in the blood and over 200% in other tissues. So, people ask, well, when should I take it? It all depends on your lifestyle. If you're training intensely, take it daily is the key. Consistency is the key. Some people like it in the morning to support energy production throughout the day. Others prefer it, pre or post workout with recovery. But honestly, consistency matters more than anything. Just make it a daily ritual. So if I'm traveling, I'll take it before the flight. I'll continue taking it. I'll take it in the evening. But if I'm on a long haul flight, like it's 12 hours, I'll take it during as well. But remember, if it's got to be pure, it's got to be fermented, and it's got to be clinically studied in humans, because that's the form that actually has the data behind it, not the claims. But anyway, my final message to you is that it's not hype. It's not just another antioxidant. It is a master antioxidant. And that's why, you go to a lot of these biohacking clinics, they're advertising glutathione IV here, which is great. But it's not always convenient. It's not always the cheapest. So that's why I personally take CellShield. I have my family taking CellShield, because it is like the master antioxidant that has been proven in clinical trials. But anyway, that's what I wanted to kind of speak to you about today. And it isn't just about Healthspan. I'm all about bridging the gap between your Healthspan and performance. Yeah, I want to function like an athlete, but I don't want to do it for the sake of my health. I actually want to do it while improving my Healthspan and reversing my biological age. And I hope the same for you guys as well. So if you like today's episode, please do subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. Comment if you've got any questions in those comment bars. Please let me know. And until next week, this is the Chris Gethin Podcast, and we are out.